All right, great. Welcome, everybody. I'm dietitian Jacqueline with Foodtown Stores. Thanks so much for joining us for this awesome cooking class today, cooking up some lighter, lower carb meals. We have 4 recipes today, so we are going to really buckle down and try and get through them. You know that I always try to talk to you about some of the nutrition as we go through the recipes. So if you have any specific questions or any comments that you'd like to share, please drop them in the chat. I do check them pretty frequently. One of the main reasons I wear glasses during our cooking class is so I could see some of the comments coming through and I could address them as we go. A little bit of housekeeping in terms of getting your recipes. Everyone who registered for the class will be getting them today. I wait until all of the registrations come through so that I could send out one email rather than multiple. So I apologize for that in advance, but you will have the recipes in hand as well as my email. So if there are any questions that come up after a class, you're certainly welcome to message me and, hopefully I can answer them. So without further ado, let's get started. Also, just be mindful to keep your audio off. I do mute everybody ahead of time because if your audio becomes available, the camera shifts to you rather than me, and then we kind of lose focus of what we're doing in the class. Okay, so thanks again for joining, and let's dive in. So our first recipe is one that I recently prepared, maybe over the summer, and it's a cottage cheese breakfast wrap. So this is an actual wrap made from cottage cheese. So if you're on social media or follow some kind of modern cooking people or influencers, then you might have seen this recipe. And it's basically just cottage cheese mixed with an egg or egg whites. We're using an egg, and you put it onto a pan with parchment paper, and then we bake it for about 30 minutes. And it becomes a wrap. It's actually magical. And whoever created this was so smart because it is it basically has no carbohydrate whatsoever. And it's all protein. It's 100% like protein, and it's super light and so delicious. So today, we are going to turn it into a breakfast wrap. So since this is going to be in the oven for a little while, we'll get this started and then we'll move on into another recipe so that we don't have any downtime. Okay. So we're going to get started with 1 cup of cottage cheese. Now what am I using today? I'm using the Good Culture cottage cheese, 2%. You can use whatever, brand makes your heart sing. This is just what happened to be at my store. And what I like about Good Culture is that it's not very watery. So sometimes certain cottage cheeses can be a little bit watery. This one's quite thick and dense, which I really enjoy. So we're gonna put this a little bit more. So we're gonna put 1 cup of cottage cheese into our food processor. All right, get that in there. I like to get it all in, all right? Move that over. Oops, 1 curdle came out. And then we're gonna add 1 egg. You could also substitute the egg for a 1/4 cup of egg white if you prefer. But we're just using 1 egg today, which is great. And that also gives us a bit more protein. So let's give that a nice spin. So I apologize for the noise, but let's process. I see something came in. Is the cottage cheese high sodium. And then we'll talk about that in just a minute. Let me just get this processed and into our pan. Looks pretty good. Okay, perfect. Now I like mine really smooth, so that's why I let it go for like 30 seconds. So then we have our parchment paper. I'm just gonna give this a little bit of spray. It really shouldn't stick, but I don't want to chance it. So that's what we're gonna do. So now I'm gonna actually take this out so that it's a little bit easier. And what you're gonna do is just pour this into the pan. You could do a circle, you could do a rectangle. I kind of just see how it kind of falls on its own, and I just sort of let it dictate what it's gonna do. But look at how nice and creamy that is. I've also done this processed cottage cheese, meaning processed like in the food processor. I've made like ice cream. So you do the same thing, but then you add some fruit to it. and you freeze it, and it's so good. Again, a nice high protein dessert, right? So let's put this guy aside. All right, so now what do you do with this? So now you want to get it as thin as you possibly can. I have found that it just cooks up nicer when it's a thinner consistency, thickness, I guess is a good way to say it. So you don't want it too thick. So I'm gonna probably spread mine out throughout the whole entire pan. There we go. And it also cooks up a little bit faster if it's a little bit thinner. Okay. And I am going to address the sodium. I just want to get this into the oven because it does take a little while. So I want to be mindful of that. All right. That looks good. But of course, I can't I just want it to be perfect. So let's just really smooth it out. There we go. That's looking really good. That looks good. Okay. Perfect. Nice. And this, you could make 2 servings with it. You can make 1 serving, it just depends on your own nutritional needs. Everybody's needs are different. Needs meaning caloric needs, protein needs, all those things are going to matter based on, how much you decide to eat, right? That's totally a personal choice. Okay. Now, what do we do from here? So, we haven't seasoned it because it's just plain cottage cheese. So I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Normally I like doing an everything bagel seasoning. It's so good with that. But today I wanna, because of what I'm gonna be doing in the filling, I feel like this makes more sense. And then I just have a little Italian seasoning. You could also add a little black pepper. I'm not a big black pepper girl, so I typically don't cook with it too much. But this is kind of, anything you add to it is gonna work. All right, now let's pop this in the oven, 350 degrees. Don't go any higher because it will burn. So we are going to, normally takes about 30 minutes. We're gonna watch it maybe around 25 just to kind of see how it's doing, okay? All right, so let's pop that in. Let's set a timer so we don't forget about it. Oh, wait, hold on, that was 25 seconds. No, timer. Oh, sorry, hold on, I can't get it, 25 minutes. There we go. I got it. Okay. So sodium. So this contains, let's see, for a half cup serving, 340 milligrams, which is 15% of the daily value. So, I guess the question would be, what is the impetus for the high in sodium? Meaning, are you sensitive to sodium? Are you just curious how much sodium is in it? I want to be able to kind of answer your question a little bit deeper if you want to elaborate. And just while you're doing that, all dairy products typically do contain sodium for the most part, and it's a necessary part of creating cheese. So any kind of cheese products typically do contain sodium. I'm not sure, again, if it's that you're sensitive to sodium or you have a limit. Sometimes there are certain diets that are for people who have hypertension or high blood pressure, who have limits on the amount of sodium that they can have per day. So it's good to know, if your budget is, let's just say 2,300 milligrams a day, you would know okay, 340, I kind of have to work that in, based on some other foods that I'm having in my diet. So if you want to tell me a little bit more so that I could maybe elaborate, I'm more than happy to, and just drop that in the comments, okay? All right, everybody. So we have our cottage cheese wrap in the oven, and that is going to cook up for us in the next 30 minutes. So while we're doing that, we're going to move on to our next recipe. So let me just make some room. We're not going to use the processor any longer, so I'm just going to set that aside. I am going to need my cooktop, so we'll switch to that. And okay. All right. So our number 2, while that's going, so we're going to move on to, we are making these adorable baked garlicky salmon bites. Now, what these are is they're similar to a falafel. So I'm not sure if you know, falafel is kind of like a Mediterranean little like ball, and typically made from chickpeas. So while good for you in the sense that chickpeas are absolutely good for you. They're high in fiber. They're typically fried, but you can bake falafel. I'm not trying to like draw comparisons. I'm just simply saying this is probably a higher protein, lower carb version of that. So what these work really well for, I think, are a snack if you want to grab like a little bite of something, or if you want to add them to like a big salad. I think that that's where they can really make a lot of sense. Okay, so I'm using 2 cans of wild salmon. You can use any salmon that is good for you in the store. You could, sorry, I can't open this, I don't know why. You could even use like homemade baked salmon and just measure out. You probably need around, say, like 12 ounces or so. And we just want to make sure that we drain out the liquid. So let me do that. I do have to take frequent sips of water because I'm animated and I talk a lot. So we're going to be doing 2 cans of salmon. And I have a sink next to me, which is why I kind of lean over a lot over there. So we want to drain out the liquid. And these are just, this particular brand, what I'm using is Wild Planet. They don't usually pack their seafood in oil. It's usually just in like some like water, just a liquid. So there's really no added, calories from that. So we're going to add the 2 cans of salmon. This gets 1 egg. So now we're kind of needing a binder, right? We gotta want to make these little balls. So we are using 3 tablespoons of Italian breadcrumbs. I'm using the gluten-free version, but any version will do. I just have gluten-free items in my household because my son follows the gluten-free diet for some medical reasons. So that's that. So we've got that. Now we're going to add in 1 scallion. I love scallions. Now, I know some people call them green onions. I grew up calling them scallions, but I think they add like a lot of nice flavor to different recipes. So let's get that in there. And I do see a couple comments. I'm gonna get to them, I promise. Okay. So we get 1 scallion in here. And then some nice garlic. So we want some good flavor in here. So 1, 2, 3. I think 3 like little cloves like this is good. We would just want them minced. You want about a tablespoon. And garlic is one of those things that it's personal preference. So if you like more garlic, feel free to add more garlic. You could also, instead of the scallions, use a little onion. It's the same family. So if let's say you wanted to make these and you're like, oh, I don't have scallions, because scallions are not, they go bad really quickly. So we don't always have those purposely on our refrigerator, but you could totally substitute a onion if you needed to. All right. Now, instead of a fat, what we're going to do is add a little bit of yogurt, 1 tablespoon. And I just have a plain Greek yogurt here. And again, this is just going to help us bring things together because we need a binder. All right. And I think we're good. I would add like just a pinch, like literally a pinch of salt, because you're getting a lot of saltiness from the breadcrumbs, especially if you decide to go with seasoned breadcrumbs. You certainly don't have to. You could just do plain. All right, that's it. So we're just going to mix this all together. Now, these are going to be baked. If you wanted to fry them or even put them in the air fryer, you absolutely can do that. So you could even turn this into a salmon burger. That would work really well too. But we are just doing our little bites or little salmon bonbons. I know there's so many ways to call these recipes that make little, the little balls. So, all right, so let me just grab a baking sheet. I know I had one prepared. What did I do with it? Oh, maybe I didn't. All right, no big deal. We'll just get a new one. Oh, I think I used it for our spaghetti fluff. We're doing a spaghetti fluff today, and that's going to be delicious. Let me just grab a pan over here. Okay. All right. Now that I've got my act together here, let's go into what is the daily requirement of sodium? Think 350 per meal is amount per meal. Okay, so the daily requirement for sodium. So I would say that the 2,300 milligrams is what's considered an appropriate amount for the majority of the population. But sodium is a very, I would say, misunderstood mineral. It's a mineral by the majority of the population. So most people don't understand how sodium plays a role in their body. We need sodium. It's absolutely something we need. And the problem is that the majority of the American population gets the majority of their sodium from processed foods. So it gets a bad rap in that most people perceive it to be a mineral that they have to limit, like, oh, that's too high in sodium, I can't have that, or I can't have salt. I think that if we controlled our processed food diet or the amount of processed foods that most people consume, and I'm just talking broad, broad perspective, then there wouldn't be that much of a issue around consuming too much sodium, the mineral, right? So when we drill it down to just basic single ingredient living, where we're just, creating and making the majority of our food, we cook the majority of our meals. We don't, eat out excessively or maybe consume, prepared meals and things of that nature. Then this excessive intake of sodium really falls to the wayside because, when we're controlling the amount of sodium in our diet, it's just not as big of an issue. So what does that 2,300 mean? 2,300 milligrams of sodium a day is really not that much, to be honest with you. If you calculated your intake, it would be quite difficult to only stay at 2,300 milligrams. But that is the number that's given to people who maybe have advanced heart disease, or they have congestive heart failure, or sodium-induced hypertension, meaning they have high blood pressure that is very responsive to sodium. So it's very difficult to give a recommendation that's for the whole population, because there are so many different instances in where your personal intake would be different. So that's sort of the sodium story. But we need sodium, believe it or not, to absorb water. We need sodium for certain physiological occurrences within our body. So sodium is really, really important. If you ever heard like someone who has been who's not feeling well because they're dehydrated. Yes, we replace with water, but they also have to replace with electrolytes as well, right? I'm sure you've heard like someone is sick or they've had like a stomach virus and oh my gosh, they have to replace with electrolytes. Well, sodium is part of those electrolytes. So it's really an important mineral that we need in our diet. But I would caution that you want to make sure that you're getting it just from your natural food sources rather than getting so much of it from processed foods. So I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, please feel free, to continue, putting your questions in the comments. Okay. All right, guys. So let's get our little garlicky salmon bites. So what we're going to do is I think I'm going to use an ice cream scooper, like one of these little ones, and that might make things easier. So I just have like this little one here, and I'm just going to do like a heaping. Yeah, that looks perfect because we like consistency and size when we cook so that things cook evenly. Okay. All right. There we go. There we go. I don't know if I'm going to fit everything on this little pan because I grabbed it in a pinch, but I think we can. Can always come back and do the rest of them. There we go, there we go, there we go. All right, I think I'm gonna stop there. I'll deal with the rest of this later. Okay, so now what you wanna do is just grab these. This is really simple. I mean, you could make these anytime. They're so easy, but they're so good over a salad, I think. I think that's kind of how I enjoy eating these. All right. And some people like will, obviously this is a lower carb cooking class, so you wouldn't do this. But I have seen people make these and then roll them in breadcrumbs again. Guess if you wanted to, you certainly could do that. I can't imagine it'd be that much that you're really adding. So the nutrition on these, so 5 salmon bites is 138 calories, which is not bad at all. 4 grams of carbs, which is basically nothing, and 19 grams of protein. That is incredible. 19 grams of protein is really, really good. So for just 5 of these, and so I like the nutrition on these bad boys. I think that's great. All right, now these are going to go into the oven for maybe like, this one's a little bit weak. I think it needs a little more, maybe like 20 minutes. Okay, we can leave them in there. Again, we got to set our timer. We've got 11 minutes left on our wrap. So there we go. Okay, that's it. These are pretty easy to make, I would say, right? All right, guys, so let me wash my hands and then I'm gonna get these into the oven. Let me just come over here quickly. All right, there we go. All right, so these are gonna go into the oven at 400 degrees, like I said, for about 20 minutes. So let's get these guys in here. All right, perfect. All right, any questions before we keep moving forward? Oh, you're welcome. Yes, I see a little thank you in there. I like that. All right, now we are going to get started on our dessert. Yes, so I don't always have time to make dessert in my cooking classes, but anytime I feel like, yeah, you know what, I could probably squeeze that in, I do try to do it because I think that it's nice to have like a little something sweet that's considered a little bit on the healthy-ish side, right? And I always say healthy-ish because that's just the nature of dessert. Although our friends over across the pond in Europe enjoy fruit for dessert very, very commonly. They're, not generally, I guess it depends on the country, not as dessert focused, I think, as we are here. Okay, so what we're making again is these peanut butter chocolate bites. Now, these are awesome because they're going to maybe make ahead so you can keep them in the freezer and just nosh on one when you're in the mood for something a little bit sweet. Each one is only about 107 calories, has 8 grams of protein and 13 grams of carb. So for a dessert item, I think that that is really great. So what we're going to do is well, let me put the chocolate aside. It's really simple. We're just going to be combining PB2 powder. So what this is peanut butter powder. It's actual real peanuts. And what they have done is just removed the fat and left the protein. So what that does is that helps reduce the caloric load of the product, but you're still getting the nutritional benefits of peanuts. So for anyone that doesn't believe me, the ingredients are roasted peanuts. There's 2 grams of sugar, or one gram of sugar and a little bit of salt. So when you buy peanut butter, that's kind of basically the go-to as well. So what we need is 1.5 cups of the powder. Okay, so actually, I know what's going to happen. You ever shake something and then it all comes tumbling out and you're like, why did I do that? So we need 1.5 cups of this. I think this is the half cup. Okay. 1.5 cups of this. There we go. And for our binder, because we're going to be rolling these into balls, we're just using 1/3 cup of unsweetened applesauce. So if you are someone that buys applesauce already, I encourage you to always purchase the unsweetened because why do we need to add sugar to fruit, right? That doesn't make sense. So always make sure that you're purchasing the unsweetened. I think I should have enough in this little cup. Yeah, because I don't want them to be too wet. All right, perfect. So we'll give this a spin. And literally that's it. Like it's the easiest dessert. It's 2 ingredients. So we're going to have to kind of work this because we want it to become almost like a cookie dough type of consistency. There we go. And just kind of mix it, mix it, mix it. If you're working with it and you're like, it seems a little dry, I really would like it to be, I need a little bit more moisture, just add a bit more applesauce and you can start to see it come together, especially since I kind of wing mine a little bit, but it is actually coming together nicely. All right, I'm gonna add just a little bit more. Okay, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a double boiler and we're going to melt our chocolate, but these have to go into the fridge for a little bit just to firm up. You could also microwave your chocolate if that's what you prefer. I have found that using a double boiler just makes the melting a lot smoother. And while you're working with the chocolate, because you have the heat from the bottom, the chocolate stays melted as you're working with it, if that makes sense. So I feel like when you sometimes use like the microwave and then you start working with the chocolate, it starts to firm up a little bit too quickly. So we don't want that. All right, good. So this is actually coming together nicely. I need that scoop, but it has fish on it. Let me see if I can, because you want to get like a cookie dough. Yeah, it's coming together. I feel like it needs a little bit more moisture. I'm just going to hit it with like a little bit of water, just like a touch. And that's the thing with working with, I use this a lot. I like adding it to my yogurt, believe it or not. It's so good, but you do need to add some moisture to it to kind of almost reconstitute it and bring it back to life. So, perfect. That actually did the trick. I just added like a pinch of water, nothing major. All right, good. So now this should make around 8. That's the serving size, around 8. You can make them smaller, you can make them bigger, it's totally up to you how you like to do it. So since my little mini scoop, that's what I normally use, since that's occupied, I'm just gonna use, I mean, they really shouldn't be this big, but I don't have a choice. All right, so now what you're gonna do is just form these little nuggets, balls, however you wanna do it. I'm gonna make mine into like little balls. See, that's it. Nice and easy, just like a little peanut butter ball, all right? So what we're gonna do with these is I'm just gonna pop them into the freezer just to kind of speed up the process a little bit of getting them firm. And then we're gonna dip them in the dark chocolate. Now I'm gonna show you the dark chocolate that I'm using because not sponsored. I feel like in this day and age, you have to say that. I literally love these. They are no sugar added, chocolate chips, the dark chocolate chips. Now, I always recommend anytime you're going for chocolate, not that there's not a place and time for semi-sweet. There certainly is, but dark chocolate just has a lot more nutrition. It'll just work harder for your health. So dark chocolate or cacao has flavonoids, which are known as phytochemicals or antioxidants. And so the higher the percentage of cocoa in your chocolate, the more of those antioxidants that you're going to benefit from. And so that's why I always tell folks, go for dark chocolate, even if you have to start at a lower percentage and work your way up, because it can seem a little bitter depending on your palate. It's okay. You'll definitely get used to it. Okay. So with our big ice cream scoop, we made 5, but we really want more servings out of it. So I would recommend just keeping them a little bit smaller, but you could do it like this too. All right, perfect. So I'm gonna put these guys, like I said, in the freezer, and then we're gonna check on our cottage cheese. Hopefully that doesn't fall out of my freezer. Let me put this in the sink. Let me give my hands just a quick rinse, and I'm coming right back to you. Okay, how are we doing, everybody? Okay, good. So let me show you the chocolate chips that I was referring to. Set this aside. So these are the Lily's dark chocolate chips that I personally, this is just a personal thing. They didn't sponsor this. I just love these. So these are no sugar added. This particular batch has 55% cocoa or cacao. but they do have higher levels as well. So if you go into your grocery store, in my grocery store at Food Town, they're just with the regular chocolate chips. They're not in some like other mysterious place. So generally you can find them in the same area as the rest of your other, chocolate and baking goods, okay? So those are gonna hang out in there for a while. Now with the chocolate. So with the chocolate, what the heck is a double boiler? So if you're not familiar, it's basically you're gonna fill a little small pot with just a little bit of water, and then your chocolate is gonna go into a smaller pot, and then you're just gonna put it over. So it's basically the steam of the water that's melting it. Again, if you prefer using the microwave to melt your chocolate, that's completely fine. I have no issues around that. But I just find this a little bit easier to work with, okay? So let's get that going. All right, so let's check on our friend over here. See how he's doing. Oh, this looks amazing. It does need like a couple more minutes, but it's looking really good. All right, so I'm gonna flip this over to have a clean board. Okay, we're doing good on time. So we are going to move on to our last recipe, although we haven't really finished any recipe, but it's because we're kind of like piecemealing this in. So the final recipe is a spaghetti squash with broccolini and cheese, almost like a lasagna to a degree. It's called a spaghetti squash broccolini lasagna, but I wouldn't say it's a lasagna. Now, if you're not familiar with spaghetti squash, it is a low carb eater's dream because spaghetti squash, it is stringy in that it looks like spaghetti, and I make no claims around it absolutely, mimicking spaghetti like pasta, but it can give you that feel like you're enjoying something a bit more indulgent. So if you've not worked with these before, they do take some time. So what I like to do with my spaghetti squash is you can bake it many different ways. You can prick it with a fork, so you can take a fork and just go all the way around, or you can take like a smaller knife and almost like a baked potato, just pierce it, wrap it in foil, pop it in the oven. It's probably going to take maybe like 50 minutes to soften up. Or you could put it in your microwave for like 12 to 15 minutes. That's another easy way to do it. Or you can cut it, which means you would cut it all the way down the middle, and you would have two halves, and then you can bake it in the oven that way for right around like 30 minutes. So either way, it is a little bit of a time investment, but I promise you it is absolutely worth it, especially if you are looking for some substitutions related to pasta. So you could eat this alone. You could combine it with like a small portion of pasta if you're looking to reduce your carbohydrate load. Either way, I think it's a great food, and my family, we do eat it quite often. So I'm going to set this guy aside, and I'm going to show you what it looks like already baked. Okay, so now what we have here, let me turn on my oven. We're going to need this. So when I bake mine, I usually bake just the half, and I put some water into the bottom of the pan, again, about 30 minutes. And then when you turn it over, what you're going to see, and this is kind of like where the magic happens, you take a fork and you comb it to a degree, or just like pull the strands out. It's really, really simple. Spaghetti squash is very mild flavored, so you can add basically anything to it to season it up. A lot of times I'll make like a ground meat sauce, or maybe like a bolognese type of sauce, and I'll fill it with that. My kids really enjoy that. And you could also do what we're doing today, which is fill it with more veggies and add a little cheese for indulgence, okay? So just so you can kind of appreciate the strands, this is what it looks like. Literally spaghetti, right? Spaghetti squash. So that's how we're going to start this. So we're just going to comb out the strands and get it nice and loose, because we're also going to serve it in here. So this makes like a fun presentation. And you can eat it right out of the shell if you like. All right. So we're going to put this guy here. We're going to set it aside, and we're going to cook the remaining part of our of our dish. All right, so here I have a little cooktop. I don't love this. I think it's time for me to upgrade because it's not getting as hot as it used to, which is kind of annoying, but what can we do? What I might do is just show you how to start it, and then maybe we'll finish it on the pan behind us so that I don't have you sitting here staring at me this whole time. All right, so I'm going to start off. So the ingredients are basic. It's just broccolini. So broccolini is just baby broccoli. It's a really nice and tender. It has a wonderful flavor, I think. And it goes really nicely in this dish because the spaghetti squash is so mild flavored. So we're just going to chop it up. You can also use a different green veggies if you'd like. I wouldn't use something that has a lot of water, like a spinach, because the spaghetti squash already has a decent amount of water, so you don't want to end up with this like soupy mess. So I would use something like a broccolini or a broccoli or a cauliflower, you know, something to the, or kale. Kale would work great too. You just want the contrast, right? So, you know, a green veggie, I think works well in here. We also have some garlic. So I have 4 or 5 cloves of garlic, and I'm just going to cut this up. I love garlic, so for me, the more the merrier. If you're not a fan of garlic, you don't have to add as much to it, okay? All right, so we've got that. So we're going to add a little bit of olive oil to our pan. All right, and I'm going to add our garlic. There we go. Now, you can season this up with just like plain, simple, like a little salt and pepper. I'm going to actually add some red pepper flakes because I think the heat from the red pepper flakes adds a nice element. So we'll add that in there. And now we're going to take our greens and just add them in. Beautiful. This actually is cooking up just fine. So we're going to season with a little bit of salt. Actually forgot my red pepper flakes, but I have all my things right in here. So just a few, kind of eyeball it. We like it a little hot around here, so I'll add a decent amount in there. Okay. So while this is cooking up, this takes like literally a minute or two. It's so quick. You can also like parboil your greens to make it a little bit faster, meaning just blanch them, you know, a couple minutes before you're going to do this. Now, this is going to go into the oven to broil, and that's going to give us that nice, you know, like cheesy top that I think we all look for when we have a nice cheesy recipe. So let me turn my broiler on, and that way we can enjoy this very quickly. Okay. So where's my chocolate? Where's my chocolate? Oh, here you are. Right. We're going to take our, there we go. Okay, guys, now look at this. This is our cottage cheese wrap. It has to cool before I take it off the pan, but look at that. It's amazing. It's actually going to be a wrap. It's unbelievable. All right, so that's that. Our, I think we need like another minute. So I want someone to remind me in 2 minutes to take out our little salmon. Okay, this looks good because it's going to go back into the oven. Okay, so now what do we do with our spaghetti squash? So our spaghetti squash has like, this literally has like no flavor. It is so simple and basic. You can add anything to it. A lot of times I'll also add like just tomato sauce. So what we're going to do is we're going to use half of our ingredients. So I have a 1/4 cup of shredded Parmesan cheese. Now, Parmesan cheese has a lot of flavor. So we're going to put just half of it at the bottom. I also have mozzarella cheese. So mozzarella is, as you know, I don't know if you know, but a lower fat cheese. So a good rule of thumb, you know, sometimes I get the question is like, are all cheeses like super high in fat and calories? And while they're dense in caloric value, you know, there are levels. So the firmer the cheese, so the more firm, like a Parmesan, you're gonna have a higher level of fat. The softer the cheese, something like a fresh mozzarella or even just a plain mozzarella, it will have a little bit less fat and calories, okay? So just kind of a little thing to remember. So we did that. Now we're gonna add in our broccolini with our garlic. Oh, that looks so nice. That is beautiful. Okay. Now we just kind of want to get everybody in there. I can't wait to enjoy this later. It's going to be so good. So this is a very veggie forward meal, as you can see. And then you're going to take the rest of your cheese and top it on top. There we go. That's good. All right. Now we're going to pop this into the oven just so we can get the cheese to melt. All right. So actually I just want to show you before I put it in there what it looks like. So it's going to look basically the same when it comes out. Just a little toastier. Okay. So let's get this in here. Actually, I don't love that. Give me 1 second, you guys. I just have to move my pan down a little bit. There we go. Okay, great. So while that's cooking, so that'll be complete. That's like a really easy and complete meal. So you can enjoy it as is, or you can add a bit more protein to it. You know, that would be fine as well. Either way, I think that it makes a really nice low carb meal because it is so veggie forward. All right, now we're gonna move on to our chocolate. So we have the double boiler. And we're gonna melt just like a handful of chocolate, about a half a cup or so. Oops, bag. Hold on, my bag's not opened enough. There we go. Perfect. About a half a cup of chocolate. I lost some guys over here. All right, and then we're just gonna give this a little stir. So this you want to, you know, just kind of mix as you go. I want it a little bit more. I think that's gonna be enough. There we go. Oh my goodness. There we go. And then we're going to take out our other stuff. And then we still have our wrap to finish up. Now our breakfast wrap is going to be made with, well, I'll give it to you. It's going to be super quick. All right. Oh, this looks great. All right, you guys. All right, so the double boiler is also a little bit faster because if you were in the microwave, you'd have to be sitting there like 20 seconds on, 20 seconds to stir it, then you're 20 seconds on again. So as you can see, in just literally less than a minute, we got a nice, soft, creamy chocolate. All right, there we go. Now you could add like a teaspoon of coconut oil to this, and what that will do, sorry, is just give it that nice glossy kind of look that you may want, like, let's say if you're going to you're a guest and you're taking this to someone's house. I would make the extra effort of adding like a little bit of coconut oil because again, it just gives it a nice glossy kind of look. So that's one of the reasons why, you know, people do that. All right, so now, because that is on hot water, I'm just gonna get the little bites. They look beautiful. It's just gonna stay melted, right? So tell me in the comments, you know, if you're following a lower carb lifestyle or it's just, you know, you kind of like lower carb recipes here and there. I'm just curious to know, you know, what your thoughts are on it. So now to dress your chocolate. Now remember, we're trying to be mindful of how much carbs we're taking in. So, you know, you want to be mindful of how much chocolate you're putting on here. When I make these, I kind of just do it almost like a half, you know, like kind of like all the way around the top, just like this. And then I pop that back into the freezer and let them, you know, let it solidify. But that's it. They're super adorable. They're so good. These are a little bit bigger than how I would normally make them. I typically make them a little bit smaller. But you know, you get the idea. And I think my kids will be happy today that I made these so big, right? Because kids are always like, oh, the bigger the better, with sweets. These are easy to make. And then from here, while the chocolate is warm or, you know, melted, you could top it with like some crushed almonds or crushed peanuts or coconut, like unsweetened coconut. They do actually make unsweetened coconut. I've had people say, oh, you know, I don't think, you know, it always has added sugar. That's not true. There is unsweetened coconut in the grocery store, so you can get it just plain without any extra, um, you know, sweetener on them. These are so cute. I love these. And they're so delicious too. Make the perfect like little bedtime snack. Oh, good. I see some comments there. I want to get in there. Okay. Perfect. Oops. This fell off. Beautiful. I think I would dress these next time now that I'm thinking about it with a little bit of coconut. It'll just make it look so pretty. All right, awesome. I had to do that. Let me pop these back in the freezer and let me look at your comments and we'll go from there. We got a pan here. Let's warm this up. Yeah. Oops. All right, guys, so this is done. All right. Perfect. So one thing is finally complete. Are we making out on time? Good. We have 15 minutes. So these are a little hot, but look at how awesome these are. These little salmon bites, super high protein. Believe it or not, they smell great, even though it is salmon. And these are awesome, like I said, over a salad or just on their own, or if you want to have a few bites for a nice high protein snack. I think they're great. Let me just open it for you so you can appreciate. Now the inside is nice and moist. They're not dry at all. So I think you'll really enjoy these. Okay, so those are our garlicky salmon bites. So those are done. Okay, so loving these easy, super, oh, yummy recipes, living a low carb and feeling lots of energy and keeping weight. Oh, that's so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm really glad that it's working for you. It's amazing how good you feel when you really concentrate on wholesome foods. You know, a lot of I find as a dietitian, a lot of times it's really just cutting out some of those like processed carbs. And then all of a sudden you just feel so good when you're concentrating on lean proteins and veggies, you know, in a more wholesome or single ingredient lifestyle. So that's great. Fantastic. Might you have a copy of each of them? Yes, 100%, Kristen. So everyone will receive a copy of the recipes sometime today. As soon as I clean up and all that, you'll have the recipes in your inbox. Okay, so let's finish up with our final recipe. All right. Oh, I forgot about our friend over here. Oh, perfect. I didn't forget. I mean, good thing I had a timer on. This is going to be a little hot. All right, so here's our spaghetti squash. Now, our friend here is very hot, but I might wait just until it's a little bit. There we go. Okay, so here's our delicious spaghetti squash. Our cheese is nice and melty. It's like a little bit charred on top. I personally like that. If you don't, then just put it for less time. But this is like a meal in itself. I mean, this is so delicious. I'm telling you, you're going to love it, especially if you're someone who's not super familiar with spaghetti squash. This is a great way for you to kind of get started, okay? All right, so now the moment of truth, I think we've gone through everything, is finally our wrap, right? Our cottage cheese wrap. So what I'm going to be doing for our breakfast wrap is I'm just going to be adding one egg. Oh, where is my egg? Oh, at least I thought I was adding an egg. I think I forgot to get this egg. Oh no, that's okay. Oh no, I didn't. Hold on, guys. I have more eggs. Give me 1 second. I didn't get an egg. All right. I'm sorry about that. I didn't realize I used my other egg already. Okay, so disaster averted, right? Live TV. That's what we say. So I'm just going to cook up one egg over easy. However you like your egg is fine. I do always add a pinch of salt to my eggs. All right, so that's gonna cook up nice. Now we're gonna get our wrap. So our wrap has cooled off. I'm just gonna take it right off the pan here. All right. And this guy looks like he came out perfect. Oops, I ripped them a little bit. So you're just gonna, there we go, see? So a malleable wrap, isn't that amazing? So now I'm just going to flip it over here. And for my filling, I kind of wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I have some roasted red peppers. So these are just roasted red peppers in the jar. They're nice and tangy. I really enjoy using these like on sandwiches. You can have, over chicken. So these are always a nice addition. So we've got some red bell peppers here. I also have a little bit of baby spinach. Just like that. Baby spinach for some nice greens. Now these are washed already. So I'm just gonna put some baby spinach here on this side. And then avocado. So this is like a really wholesome wrap. And I think that you'll really appreciate that you can eat healthy and still have some really delicious foods, right? And really enjoy some really fun foods. And here's our, oh, look at that. We got a perfect avocado. When that happens, I feel like it's like a prize. Don't you feel like that? It's like a total prize. All right, so a couple slices of avocado go in here. Oops, there we go. There we go. And then of course our egg. Now it depends how you like your egg. If you want it runny, you can leave it runny. If you want it cooked a little bit further, oops, can certainly do that. All right. There we go. And your egg goes right on top. Oh my gosh, this looks so good. So from here, you can do one of two things. You can just literally fold it over like this and cut it in half. I have found some people, depending on how brave you are, because this isn't bread, it's cottage cheese, so it's possible that it could rip. But you could also just kind of roll it up. It's not too hard, but you can kind of roll it up just like a traditional wrap, just like that. So see that? And then from here, I would take a serrated knife because the teeth just makes it a little bit easier to cut. Cut it in half, and truly, look at that, looks amazing. That is like a low carb eater's dream. There you go. Okay. So I think that's it for today. I hope I didn't forget anything because I feel like when I do 4 recipes, I feel like it's a lot, in an hour. But we made it through, you guys. So questions, comments, anything you want to share. Let me know if you've tried the cottage cheese wrap before. This is a really very good one and one that I really personally like a lot. So we've got the cottage cheese breakfast wrap. Your fillings can be whatever makes your heart sing. We have the stuffed spaghetti squash with the broccolini and some cheese. You can enjoy it just this way, or if you prefer adding like some turkey crumbles or beef crumbles or something like that, you could. And then we have our little salmon, garlicky salmon bites, which are perfect. These these make a great appetizer for holidays. You could serve this with like a horseradish sauce or something like a white yogurt based sauce, like a tzatziki sauce, which is like a Greek sauce. You could do something like that. And then let's get our little chocolates. They should be firm by now. Yes, perfect. And then we have our little chocolate. Yeah, they are. Look at that. Look at the way they're like rolling around. And then we have our little chocolate peanut butter bites for a nice sweet treat at the end of the day, because we know we all deserve it. So, good. Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here and for watching. I hope that you enjoyed yourself. I hope that you learned something new or took away some ideas that you can incorporate into your own life. I look forward to seeing you at our next final class of the year, if you can believe it. We have one more class coming up, and we're going to be doing holiday entertaining on December 10th. So I haven't created the recipes yet, but I'm thinking maybe some like appetizers or maybe a holiday entree. So maybe some holiday desserts. We'll think about it, but it'll be a fun and festive class. So thanks again and have a terrific rest of your day.